Are you also fed up with spending your own hard-earned cash on World of Tanks gold? Then make sure to go to the Google Play Store right now and download free gold for tanks and start earning free gold and premium tanks for World of Tanks. And also don't forget to use the code 5FHFM for a very tasty 10 gold bonus. Ha! You thought that was alright? Well, wrong, because also as a little bonus, my sponsor Gold for Tanks was so kind enough to generate me a butt ton of free gold codes. So I decided to give them all away to you guys. So what I did, I've basically hidden all of the codes throughout this video. Some of them are easy to spot, others are quite a bit more tricky. Anyways, each code is worth 100 gold and can only be activated once. So if you're lucky and alert enough to spot a code and be the first one to activate it on your account, you'll have some free gold to play around with. So you're welcome, I guess. Anyways, good luck with your scavenge for these codes. Hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll catch you guys later. So, I guess that every World of Tanks player has noticed the following already. That when you play your tanks in the random battle, no matter what tier you load in, there are always those monsters that each and every tier in the game has lurking around. You know, that kind of vehicle that just ends up to tear apart everything when they're simply matched at the top of the list. But what are those vehicles and how good are they actually? Well, if you're wondering just that, then you've clicked on the right video, because in today's top 10 video, we're gonna be covering the best tanks in World of Tanks for each and every tier. Which means that this top 10 list will be a little different from my normal top 10 videos. Because instead of simply counting down from 10 to 1, this video is actually gonna start at number 1 and will count all the way up to number 10, with the number indicating the tier, together with the best tank inside of that respectable tier. So I'm just hoping this isn't going to be too confusing for you. Anyways, we're just going to kick off with the list and we'll see how it goes. But before we're going to do that, I just first need to tell you that each and every tank in this list is based off its fully upgraded state. So a tank's stock performance will not be considered with the positioning of these vehicles in this list. And also this list is mainly based on my personal experience playing these vehicles. So your opinion may and can differ, of course. So please don't be too harsh on me in the comment section for forgetting or misplacing a tank that you would have picked. So now with all of that out of the way, let's dive straight into the world of the tier for tier monsters World of Tanks has to offer for us. So, starting off with the number 1 position and the best tank at tier 1, which is non-existent. Whoa, that's a hell of a start, right? But for real guys, I don't really believe that there is a single tier 1 tank that completely outperforms the others. Which is quite obvious as well, since tier 1 is especially made for new players to get to know the basic mechanics of the game. So it would be rather silly, of course, if we had an actual tier 1 tank that would be just flat out better than the others. And I know, of course, the performance of the tier 1 tanks do differ bit by bit, but not as much that I would really consider a clear outperforming one. So therefore, the best tier 1 tank in World of Tanks is, in my opinion, whatever tank you think looks the coolest or plays the best. So moving on to the number 2 position and the best tank at tier 2, where we do actually have a clear winner, which is the Tetrarch. So the Tetrarch is quite an old tank, since it has been in the game for quite some time now, and usually you see the newer tanks in World of Tanks overshadowing the old ones a bit. But that is definitely not the case with this tier 2 Russian monster. But what is it that makes the Tetrarch such a good tier 2 tank? Well, other than its insane speed and maneuverability and semi-bouncy armor, it's mainly the gun that makes the Tetrarch stand out from the rest of the tier 2 vehicles. Because the Tetrarch has that 40mm tier 4 gun on a tier 2 light tank. Yeah, you've heard that right. A tier 4 gun on a tier 2 light tank. This means that the Tetrarch not only can literally shred apart every tier 2 tank that it meets, but it can also hold its ground quite well against even some tier 4 vehicles that it might meet on the battlefield. Not to forget its pretty good stock DPM of 985 damage per minute. So it can not only pen each and every shot with ease, but it can also kill its enemies like swatting a bug. And that's exactly the reason why the Tetrarch claims the crown of the best tier 2 tank in World of Tanks. So, moving on to the number 3 position, where we actually have 2 contenders, and since I couldn't choose, I decided to include them both as a shared spot. Little disclaimer, my indecisive self will do this a lot more often throughout this video. So the two best tanks at tier 3 are the Panzer 1C and the Panzer 2J. So here you go is some German action on the list. So to start off, let's just get the easiest one right out of the way. The Panzer 2J. Why? Well, because it's a flipping Panzer 2J. It's a premium light tank that costs 100 euros and has about the same armor as a KV-1, which is a heavy tank that is 2 tiers higher. Basically the most extreme case of pay to win in the entire game in my opinion. And I know it used to be better back in the days because of some new lower tier tanks with great premium penetration we lately got, but still I think the Panzer 2J still holds its ground quite well nowadays. And secondly, the Panzer 1C, well, to start off with, it's my all-time favorite tier 3 tank. It's lightning fast, has a devastating gun which can evaporate enemies like snow in front of the sun. It's pretty well armored for a tier 3 light tank, and to top it all off, unlike the Panzer 2J, you don't have to pay 2 weeks worth of food for it. And is instead free to get for everyone right from the German tech tree. And that is why my personal preference goes to the Panzer 1C instead of the Panzer 2J. But that still doesn't take away the fact that both of these vehicles are, at least in my opinion, the best tier 3 tanks you can currently get in World of Tanks. So, moving on to the number 4 spot, which is yet again a shared spot. But what are they? Well, the best 2 vehicles at tier 4 are the Hetzer and the Matilda. So let's start right off with the good old saying, Hetzer's gonna hetz, and that sentence doesn't exist for nothing, and it mainly refers to the sheer amount of destruction the Hetzer can dish out with its 105mm derp gun. That is well capable of one-shotting most lightly armored equal tiered opponents, and not to forget some thicker targets as well with a simple press of the 2 key. But it's not the gun alone that makes the Hetzer appear on this list. It's also mainly because of the Hetzer's exceptional armor for its tier and class, with some very nice angling as well, making it very hard for most equal tiered opponents to return the favor while you're stuck on your reload, allowing the Hetzer to keep moving forward straight in the face of the enemies, eliminating its weaknesses, which is of course the 105mm gun's very bad accuracy. And it can actually do that quite reliably since it has some decent mobility values as well, unlike the other tank featured at this spot, since unfortunately for the Matilda it hasn't got the same mobility as the Hetzer. But the bad mobility is the only bad thing the Matilda has to cope with, since this tier 4 monster is all about armor, even better than the Hetzer, and also about its devastating high pan, fast reloading and decently accurate gun that has the ability to keep dishing out punishment, giving its victims little time to react or recover from it, which makes the Matilda oh so devastating. Because why do you need speed if your reload time can simply prevent the enemies from moving away from you at all? And that is why the Matilda, as well as the Hetzer, together form, at least in my opinion, the king and queen of the tier 4 battlefield. So, moving on to the number 5 spot, with the best tier 5 vehicle in the game being the KV-1. Yeah, I know, this one was kinda obvious, wasn't it? Anyways, why is the KV-1 the best tier 5 vehicle in the game? Well, that's mainly because it's, in my opinion, the best step-up tank for everyone that just came from tier 4 to get to know the tier 5 battlefield. Because, fair enough, you could argue that the Panzer 4H, for example, also could be here, but I deliberately didn't go for the Panzer 4H, cause it's a bit more complicated to play as well. Unlike the KV-1, since the KV-1's great overall armor together with its very competitive 85mm gun make a very good yet still quite noob friendly tier 5 tank. Or if you're more familiar with the game and its mechanics, you can also already utilize stuff like armor angling and side scraping quite well in your KV-1, turning you in a very hard to kill target. And that is mainly why I think that the KV-1 beats the Panzer 4H and claims the crown of being the best tier 5 tank in the World of Tanks. So, moving on to the number 6 spot, where we have again a shared spot with the 2 best tier 6 vehicles in the game being the Cromwell B and the T-34-85M. So let's start off with the all-time record holder for best tier 6 tank in the game, which is the good old trusty Cromwell B. with the B standing for better of course, since the premium version of the Cromwell is flat out better than the regular one. But anyways, the Cromwell B is very popular tier 6 tank, mainly among the more experienced players in World of Tanks that like to play mediums. Since in my opinion, the Cromwell B is basically the perfect tier 6 medium tank. It's lightning fast, turns around even faster than France on a World War II battlefield, and has a very nice high DPM 75mm gun that can shred through the majority of its opponents with no problems at all. And also, to top it all off, it has just a thick enough armor to stay resistant against most HE rounds, which actually is a big problem for most other tier 6 medium tanks except for the Cromwell. And the T-34-85M of course. But unlike the Cromwell B, the 85M's armor can stop a whole lot more than just HE shells, since the armor is where the 85M truly shines. Since if you take the regular T-34-85, that is already a very good tier 6 tank, but it only has one major weakness, and that is, you guessed it, it's rather thin armor. But don't worry, since the premium version of this tank completely fixes that problem, while still having all of the pros from the normal T-34-85, with that mainly being the very tasty 85mm gun that can also be found on, for example, heavy tanks that are one tier lower. And that is why the T-34-85M as well as the Cromwell B together claim the spot of the best tier 6 tanks in World of Tanks. So, moving on to the number 7 spot, with the best tier 7 tank being, hands down, the T-29. So, unlike tier 6, at tier 7 we only have one clear winner here. The T-29. It's just hands down, in my opinion, the best tier 7 tank you can get. Mainly because it's so far ahead of all the other tier 7 heavies, since it has that competitive high alpha gun, decent mobility, and not to forget an absolute monstrous armor and gun depression, which makes you pretty much invincible even against tier 9 vehicles when hulled down. And if you start comparing the T-29 to a Tiger 1 or an IS for example, you'll almost start to think that a T-29 is a tier 8 tank rather than a tier 7. Also because the T-29 is just a fraction worse than the actual American tier 8, the T-32. But hey, I guess that's just another reason why the T-29 truly beats each and every other tier 7 tank out there and sits lonely on top at the tier 7 mountain as the best tier 7 tank in World of Tanks. So, moving on to the number 8 spot, with the best tier 8 tank obviously being a premium, since there are actually more tier 8 premiums than regular tier 8s in the game. I'm so sorry, I just couldn't deny this one. It's of course the Object 252U Defender. So, I guess this was not a surprise at all to anyone right here. How can this list possibly be completed without mentioning probably the most controversial tank in the history of World of Tanks? And maybe the newer players among you might think, oh, is it really that bad? Well, trust me, it is. Because the Defender is basically the over-complete heavy tank package at tier 8. Since it's decently fast, has a tier 9 like armor and a tier 9 like Russian slot machine with 440 alpha damage and great penetration. And not to forget the Soul of Stalin guarding it for 24/7. Okay, that might have just been a little bit exaggerated, but I guess you get the point right now. In my opinion, this thing would make a perfectly great and balanced tier 9 heavy tank. But just the fact that it's not a tier 9 but a tier 8, so it can actually meet tier 6 tanks with that 440 alpha gun, and for them impenetrable armor is truly terrifying. And what is even more terrifying is that literally anyone with a spare 40 euros on their hands can simply get one of these tanks with the snap of a credit card, if Wargaming is greedy enough to sell it again. Which they promise never to again. But they already sold it 4 times now. So yeah, I wouldn't count on that if I were you. Anyways, I guess that these reasons are more than enough to call the Defender the best tier 8 tank that you can currently get by just slapping your credit card in World of Tanks. So we're getting quite close already, but we're not quite done yet. Moving on to the number 9 spot, with the best tier 9 tank being the T-54. So I have to admit this one was quite tricky for me, since there are quite a bunch of tier 9 tanks worthy of this list. But when I started to look at the reliability, only one remains, which was the T-54. Because as I stated before, the T-54 is simply the most complete and reliable tier 9 tank you can get. At least in my opinion. Why? Well, first of all, it's Russian, so that's always a plus in this game. And furthermore, it's a medium tank, which means it has medium tank-like mobility and also semi-heavy tank-like armor, especially on the turret. And if you combine that with a very competitive high DPM 100mm gun with 300 plus penetrating heat rounds, and you've got yourself the perfect tier 9 machine that is well capable of taking on pretty much every vehicle in this game if played right. But also if you don't play it right, it's still probably one of the most forgiving and noob friendly tier 9s out there. Which only adds up to the fact that in my opinion the T-54 is the best tier 9 tank you can currently get in World of Tanks. So now, the moment you probably all have been waiting for, the number 10 spot and the best tier 10 vehicle, the best reward, the ultimate best end of the road tank you can possibly get in World of Tanks is each and every single one of them. I guess you didn't see that one coming, did you? Well, allow me to explain myself. Tier 10 is a whole lot different from any other tier in this game, because there literally isn't a single tier 10 tank that is overwhelmingly better than the other, with maybe some exceptions. But overall, and this is what makes tier 10 so special, and that is that each and every tier 10 tank in this game is special in its own way. And combined with the right experience and playstyle, each and every tier tank can be the best tier 10 tank out there. That's also why the road towards it is so damn important. Because it's made for you to find out if you like and if you truly are able to play the tier 10 vehicle that you're going for. So then, what is the best tier 10 vehicle? Well, I'm afraid the only one who can answer that question is yourself. So try out a bunch of different lines, and once you find a line where you truly excel in performance wise, or where you truly have the most fun in, then that tier 10 vehicle sitting at the end of that particular line is going to be the best tier 10 vehicle in the game for you. So guys, that was all for this top 10 videos. If you enjoyed the video or found it useful, then make sure to smash like and subscribe to stay up to date with the dankest gaming videos. Also, let me know in the comments down below how I did. Did you agree with my list, or would you have done something different? Anyways, make sure to let me know in the comments down below, because I'm always curious on your opinions as well. But for now, all that's left for me to say is, as always, have an awesome day, and I'll catch you guys later.
Jack it up.